The screams echoed through the burning streets of New Geneva as plasma bolts tore through the morning air. Sarah Chen pressed herself against the crumbling concrete wall, her heart hammering against her ribs. 3 days ago, she had been a medical student preparing for final exams. Now she clutched a stolen alien weapon with trembling hands, watching her world die. The HFY had arrived without warning. Their massive ships blotted out the sun over Earth's major cities, and within hours, the slaughter began. No demands, no negotiations, no mercy. They simply started killing every human they could find. "This way!" Marcus shouted from across the debris-filled street. The former police officer waved desperately at the small group of survivors huddled behind an overturned transport vehicle. "The sewers are clear for now." Sarah forced herself to move, sprinting across the open ground as energy blasts sizzled past her head. Behind her, the distinctive whine of HFY hover platforms grew louder. The aliens were hunting again. She dove through the manhole cover just as an explosion rocked the street above. Concrete chunks rained down as Marcus sealed the entrance behind them. In the dim emergency lighting of the underground tunnels, Sarah counted only 12 survivors left from their original group of 40. "They're not just killing us," whispered Dr. James Walsh, the elderly scientist who had become their unofficial leader. "They're enjoying it. I've watched them through the scope. They take their time, make it last." 8-year-old Emma clung to her mother's arm, her eyes wide with terror that no child should ever experience. The girl hadn't spoken since witnessing her father's death 2 days earlier. "The military?" asked someone from the back of the group. "Gone," Marcus replied grimly. "I monitored the last radio transmissions before the networks died. The HFY hit every major base simultaneously. Our fighters couldn't even get off the ground. Through the concrete above their heads, they could hear the methodical sound of the alien hunt continuing. Plasma weapons firing in controlled bursts, the crash of buildings being systematically destroyed, occasionally a human scream that cut off too quickly. "There has to be someone fighting back," Sarah said, more to convince herself than the others. "The outer colonies, the deep space stations." Dr. Walsh shook his head. "The HFY have been planning this for years. Every human settlement, every outpost. They hit everything at once across 1,000 light-years of space." The group fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts of lost families and destroyed homes. The only sounds were the distant rumble of alien machinery and the quiet sobbing of those who still had tears left. "Sir," Marcus suddenly pressed his hand to his earpiece. "I'm picking up something on the emergency frequencies." He adjusted the small radio he had salvaged from a destroyed military vehicle. Static filled the tunnel, then a faint voice broke through the interference. "Anyone out there? This is Captain Reynolds. If any humans are receiving this transmission..." Dr. Walsh grabbed the radio. "This is Dr. James Walsh, New Geneva Survivor Group. Captain, are you military?" "Negative, Doc. Captain Jake Reynolds, Merchant Marine. I've been running supplies to the Outer Rim colonies for 15 years. The voice was steady, calm in a way that seemed impossible given their situation. "I was 3 days out from Earth when the attack began." "Captain, you need to run," Dr. Walsh said urgently. "Get as far from human space as possible. The HFY have overwhelming numbers and technology. There's nothing you can do here." A pause, then a sound that might have been laughter. "Doc, I appreciate the advice, but I've got cargo that needs delivering. Medical supplies, food, equipment. Seems to me there are folks down there who could use these items." "It's suicide," Marcus interjected. "The orbital space around Earth is crawling with their ships. Nothing gets through." "Well now, that's where you might be wrong," Reynolds replied. "See, I've been watching these HFY for the last 72 hours. Interesting species. Very methodical, very precise. They follow patterns." Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in days. Hope. "What kind of patterns?" They're hunters, not soldiers. Big difference. Hunters focus on their prey, get tunnel vision. They're so busy enjoying their killing spree down there, they're not watching the sky as carefully as they should be. Through the static, they could hear what sounded like weapon systems powering up. Besides, I've got some modifications to my ship that might surprise them. Let's just say merchant marines deal with pirates sometimes, and we learn to adapt. Captain, even if you make it through their blockade, what can one man do against an entire invasion force? Dr. Walsh asked. Another pause, longer this time. When Reynolds spoke again, his voice carried something that made the survivors straighten despite themselves. Something cold and dangerous that reminded them humans hadn't climbed to the top of Earth's food chain by being gentle. Doc, these aliens made one big mistake. They think slaughtering helpless civilians makes them predators. They're about to learn the difference between hunting sheep and hunting wolves. The transmission crackled with static as his ship apparently maneuvered through the debris field that had once been Earth's orbital defense platforms. I'll be on the ground in 6 hours. Find somewhere safe to hole up and stay off the radio frequencies. When I land, things are going to get very loud, very fast. Captain? Wait, Sarah called out. How will we know when you're here? The static cleared for a moment, and Jake Reynolds' voice came through crystal clear. Trust me, you'll know. These Kethvar are about to discover why smart species don't pick fights with humans. See you on the ground. The transmission ended, leaving the survivors in darkness with only the sound of their own breathing and the distant rumble of alien vehicles above. For the first time since the invasion began, the 12 people huddled in those tunnels dared to believe they might live to see another day. Above them, unaware of the conversation taking place in the sewers below, a Kethvar hunting pack methodically worked their way through the residential district. The aliens moved with the casual confidence of apex predators. Their advanced weapons cutting down the handful of humans foolish enough to break cover. Commander Vexistar paused in his systematic destruction to admire a particularly artistic scorch pattern his weapon had left on a human dwelling. The invasion had proceeded flawlessly. In less than 4 rotations, they had eliminated 90% of the human population across their entire territory. Soon, this species would exist only as a memory. The Kethvar had studied humans extensively before the attack. A relatively young species, barely spacefaring, with primitive weapons and no unified military command. They showed promise in individual combat, but lacked the coordination and technology needed for effective resistance. Most importantly, humans were emotional creatures. The loss of their homeworld and major colonies had shattered their morale. The scattered survivors were hiding, not fighting, easy prey for skilled hunters like the Kethvar. Vextar activated his communicator. Hunting Pack 7 to command. Sector 7 Alpha is pacified. No significant resistance encountered. Acknowledged, Pack 7. Continue standard cleansing protocol. Supreme Hunter Kralvex is pleased with our progress. As the hunting pack moved deeper into the residential area, none of the aliens noticed the small shape moving through the upper atmosphere. Jake Reynolds' ship, running silent with all non-essential systems offline, slipped through the orbital patrol routes like a ghost. Reynolds sat in his pilot chair, studying the tactical display with the Sam Jake Reynolds had learned patience during 15 years of running cargo through pirate-infested space. Now, crouched in the ruins of what had once been New Geneva's communications tower, that patience was about to pay off in ways the Kethvar couldn't imagine. His ship, the modified Raven, sat hidden in a crater 2 kilometers away, its adaptive camouflage making it invisible to alien sensors. Reynolds had spent the last 6 hours moving through the devastated city, studying his enemy's behavior patterns. What he discovered both disgusted and encouraged him. The Kethvar were indeed hunters, not soldiers. They moved in small packs of 3 to 5 individuals, methodically clearing sectors with the casual arrogance of apex predators. They took their time with kills, savoring the hunt rather than focusing on efficiency. Most importantly, they had grown complacent after 3 days of unopposed slaughter. Through his scope, Reynolds watched a Kethvar hunting pack corner a family of 4 in a collapsed shopping center. The aliens were 8 feet tall, with elongated limbs and chitinous armor that gleamed in the afternoon sun. Their plasma rifles hummed with barely contained energy as they slowly advanced on their terrified prey. The lead, Kethvar, wearing more elaborate armor marking him as a pack leader, raised his weapon toward the youngest child. He seemed to be savoring the moment, drawing out the fear before the kill. Reynolds adjusted his breathing and squeezed the trigger. The hypervelocity round, accelerated by magnetic coils and guided by micro-adjustments from his suit's targeting system, crossed the 800-meter distance in less than a second. It punched through the pack leader's armor like paper, the tungsten core continuing through 2 concrete walls before finally coming to rest. The Kethvar didn't even have time to register surprise before his body collapsed. The remaining aliens spun in confusion, searching for the source of the attack. Reynolds was already moving to his second prepared position, the powered exoskeleton he wore making no sound as it carried him through the rubble. His second shot took the leftmost alien through the center mass. The third caught another as it tried to activate what appeared to be a communication device. The last Kethvar, panicking now, sprayed plasma bolts randomly into the surrounding buildings. Reynolds' final shot was almost casual, taken from a position 300 meters from his original firing point. The alien dropped without ever seeing his killer. 4 down, Reynolds murmured into his throat mic, updating the tactical display on his helmet's heads-up screen. Pack structure disrupted. No distress calls transmitted. He rappelled down to the shopping center where the human family cowered behind an overturned table. The father clutched a piece of rebar like a weapon, his hands shaking but his eyes defiant. Reynolds approved. Fear was acceptable, but humans who gave up were already dead. "Captain Reynolds, Merchant Marine," he said, keeping his voice calm and professional. "Are any of you injured?" The mother spoke first, her voice barely a whisper. They killed everyone else. We've been hiding for 2 days." "Not anymore," Reynolds replied, helping them to their feet. "I need you to move to grid reference 7 Alpha 9er. There's a survivor group hiding in the old subway system. Tell Dr. Walsh that the package has been delivered." The father stared at the 4 dead aliens. "You killed them all. I thought they were supposed to be unstoppable." Reynolds checked his ammunition counter and began moving toward his next position. Aliens aren't magic. They bleed. They die. They make mistakes. These ones just made the mistake of thinking humans wouldn't fight back. Over the next 4 hours, Reynolds moved like a ghost through the ruins of New Geneva. Each Kethvar hunting pack followed the same predictable pattern. Sweep a sector, corner survivors, take time to savor the kill. He used their sadistic nature against them, striking when they were distracted by their prey. The aliens' superior technology meant nothing when they couldn't see their attacker. Their advanced armor was useless against weapons specifically designed to penetrate hardened targets at extreme range. Most importantly, their pack mentality made them predictable. By sunset, Reynolds had eliminated 37 Kethvar across 6 different hunting packs. More importantly, he had rescued 43 human survivors and guided them to the growing safe zone in the underground tunnels. But he knew the aliens would adapt. Already, the later encounters had been more challenging as the Kethvar began to suspect they were being hunted. It was time for Phase 2. Reynolds made his way back to his ship as darkness fell over the city. The modified Raven's cargo bay contained equipment that no legitimate merchant marine should possess: military-grade weapons, advanced surveillance gear, and several items that were technically illegal under interstellar commerce regulations. The advantage of running supplies to frontier colonies was that sometimes those colonies needed protection from more than just pirates. He activated the ship's communication array and began broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Not the emergency channels the survivors were monitoring, but the tactical frequencies the Kethvar used for coordination. "Attention, alien forces," he said in clear, unaccented standard. "This is Captain Jake Reynolds of the Human Resistance. Today you lost 6 hunting packs to a single opponent. Tomorrow you will lose more." The response came within minutes. The alien voice harsh and filled with barely controlled rage. "Human, you have delayed the inevitable. We are Kethvar. We have conquered 17 species across the galaxy. Your resistance is meaningless." "Conquered 17 species," Reynolds repeated thoughtfully. "All of them herbivores or scavengers according to our intelligence files. You've never fought a real predator before, have you?" A pause, then. "You will be found, human. When we capture you, your death will last for days." Reynolds smiled, though the alien couldn't see it. "I'm counting on you trying to find me. See, you made this personal when you started killing civilians. Now I'm going to teach you the difference between hunting sheep and hunting wolves." He cut the transmission and began preparing for the next phase of his campaign. The Kethvar would respond to his challenge with overwhelming force, sending multiple hunting packs to converge on his position. They would expect him to run or hide like the other survivors. Instead, he was going to give them a lesson in human warfare. Reynolds spent the night rigging his chosen battlefield with surprises adapted from insurgency tactics he had learned during the Centauri mining wars. Shaped charges hidden in rubble, remote-controlled weapon platforms, motion sensors linked to his tactical network. The Kethvar hunted by sight and sound. Humans had learned to hunt with technology. As dawn broke over New Geneva, Reynolds positioned himself in an abandoned office building with clear sight lines in all directions. His exoskeleton was plugged into the building's emergency power system, giving him unlimited ammunition for his magnetic accelerator rifle. More importantly, every electronic device in a 6-block radius was now part of his surveillance network. The first Kethvar hunting pack appeared at 0630 hours, moving cautiously through the streets below. They had learned from the previous day's losses, advancing in a staggered formation while scanning for threats. Reynolds let them enter his kill zone before triggering the first surprise. The shaped charge, hidden in the foundation of a nearby building, brought down 30 tons of concrete directly onto the pack's lead scout. The explosion also activated motion sensors throughout the area, giving Reynolds real-time tracking data on all remaining targets. What followed was not a battle, but a carefully orchestrated demonstration of human tactical superiority. The Kethvar, trained to hunt individual prey, found themselves facing an enemy that fought like a single organism spread across multiple city blocks. Remote weapon platforms engaged targets of opportunity, while Reynolds picked off priority threats with precision shots. Electronic warfare systems jammed alien communications and fed false sensor data back to their command structure. Every street, every building, every piece of rubble had been turned into a weapon. When the last Kethvar in the first pack fell, Reynolds was already preparing for the second wave. His tactical display showed multiple enemy groups converging on his position from all directions. "Perfect," he murmured, activating the next phase of his battle plan. The Kethvar had responded exactly as he had hoped. They were bringing their entire local force to eliminate the threat he represented. They still didn't understand what they were really facing. Reynolds wasn't just one human with advanced weapons. He was the visible tip of a species that had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing anything that threatened them. The aliens were about to learn that humans didn't just fight to survive. They fought to win. Supreme Hunter Kralvex stood aboard his command vessel, studying the tactical display with growing unease. In 73 hunts across 17 different species, he had never encountered anything like this single human. "Report," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of countless successful campaigns. "The human has eliminated 47 of our finest hunters in less than 18 hours. his tactical coordinator replied, unable to hide the tremor in his voice. 3 full battle packs have been destroyed attempting to locate and eliminate him. Kralvex's mandibles clicked in frustration. The human should have been cornered by now, overwhelmed by superior numbers and firepower. Instead, each attempt to engage him resulted in more Kethvar casualties. How is one primitive human defeating our most experienced hunters? Supreme Hunter, we believe the human is using the terrain against us. He has turned the entire city into a weapon. Our scouts report finding improvised explosive devices, remote weapon platforms, and sensor networks throughout the combat zone. Kralvex studied the reports flowing in from the surface. The human wasn't fighting like any prey species they had encountered. Instead of running or hiding, he was actively hunting the hunters. More disturbing, he seemed to be learning and adapting faster than the Kethvar could counter. "Double the hunting packs in that sector," Kralvex ordered. "Send every available warrior. This human dies today." 3,000 meters below, Jake Reynolds monitored the alien communications through his electronic warfare suite. The Kethvar were making exactly the mistake he had counted on, throwing more resources at a problem without understanding what they were truly facing. His modified exoskeleton had sustained minor damage during the morning's engagement, but the suit's repair systems were already compensating. The magnetic accelerator rifle had performed flawlessly, its tungsten rounds punching through alien armor like tissue paper. Most importantly, his ammunition fabricator was keeping pace with his consumption rate. But ammunition wasn't his most powerful weapon anymore. Over the last day and night, something had changed in the city. The surviving humans were no longer just hiding. They were watching, learning, and most importantly, they were getting angry. Reynolds activated his comm system and transmitted on the survivor frequency. "Dr. Walsh, this is Reynolds. I need a favor." The response came immediately. "Captain, we've been monitoring the alien chatter. They're sending everything they have to your position. You need to evacuate." "Negative, Doc. I'm staying put. But I need you to spread the word through all survivor groups. Tell them to watch what happens next. Tell them to remember that humans don't give up." "Captain, what are you planning?" Reynolds checked his weapon status and smiled. "I'm going to remind these aliens why apex predators don't hunt in packs." The first wave of Kethvar hunting packs reached Reynolds' position at 1400 hours. 50 of the galaxy's most experienced alien hunters moving through the rubble-strewn streets with military precision. They had learned from their previous losses, advancing slowly and checking every potential ambush point. Reynolds let them come. When the lead pack reached the center of his kill zone, he triggered every trap, every weapon platform, every explosive device simultaneously. The coordinated detonation turned 6 city blocks into a hurricane of concrete, steel, and plasma fire. But that was only the beginning. As the dust settled and the surviving aliens tried to regroup, Reynolds began his counterattack. This wasn't the methodical sniping of the previous day. This was something the Kethvar had never experienced, a human warrior fighting with the focused fury of his entire species' evolutionary history. He moved through the destruction like a force of nature, the exoskeleton enhancing his speed and strength beyond alien comprehension. His rifle spoke with mechanical precision, each shot eliminating a target before the aliens could react. When they tried to coordinate their response, his electronic warfare systems turned their own communications against them. The few Kethvar who managed to get close-range shots found their plasma bolts deflected by energy shields that shouldn't have existed on a merchant marine vessel. Reynolds had spent 15 years modifying his equipment, and every modification had been tested in real combat against pirates and worse. Within 20 minutes, the street was silent, except for the crackle of cooling metal and the distant sound of collapsing buildings. 50 Kethvar hunters lay dead, eliminated by a single human they had dismissed as primitive prey. Reynolds activated his comm system again, but this time he broadcast on all frequencies, both human and alien. This is Captain Jake Reynolds to all surviving humans on Earth and throughout the colonies. I know you're scared. I know you think we've lost. But I want you to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell these alien invaders." He switched to the Kethvar command frequency, his voice carrying across the solar system to every alien vessel within range. "Supreme Hunter Kralvex, this is the human you've been trying to kill. In the last 36 hours, I have personally eliminated 97 of your warriors. I have turned your hunting packs into prey and your soldiers into corpses. Now I'm going to explain exactly what you've done wrong." The alien response came immediately, filled with rage and disbelief. "Impossible! One human cannot defeat our finest hunters." "Your first mistake," Reynolds continued calmly, "was thinking humans are prey animals. We're not. We're the species that turned every other predator on our planet into either pets or memories. Your second mistake was thinking superior technology makes you superior warriors. We've been fighting wars since before you discovered fire." As he spoke, Reynolds was already moving to his final position. The Kethvar would respond to this humiliation with everything they had. Their entire invasion force would converge on his location, abandoning their systematic slaughter to eliminate the threat he represented. "Your third and most critical mistake," he said, "was assuming we would surrender just because you killed some of us. You clearly don't understand human nature. When you attack our families, our children, our homes, you don't demoralize us. You wake up something that has been sleeping." Reynolds reached his destination, a massive industrial complex at the heart of New Geneva's manufacturing district. His ship's fabrication systems had been working around the clock to prepare this facility for what was coming. Every building, every vehicle, every piece of machinery had been turned into a weapon. "Supreme Hunter Kralvex, I'm sending you my exact coordinates. Come and finish what you started. Bring every ship, every warrior, every weapon you have. Show the universe what happens when the mighty Kethvar face a single human." The response was immediate and decisive. Every Kethvar vessel in the system broke orbit and began descending toward the planet's surface. Attack ships, heavy cruisers, the massive command dreadnought itself. Thousands of warriors armed with weapons that could level mountains. All focused on eliminating one human who refused to die. Reynolds watched the alien fleet approach on his tactical display, their ships blotting out the sun as they had 3 days earlier. But this time, humans throughout the system were watching too. In hidden bunkers and underground shelters, the survivors listened to his transmission and saw their future written in the sky above. "To every human who can hear this," Reynolds said quietly, "remember what you're about to witness. Remember that one person with the will to fight can change everything. When this is over, when these aliens are nothing but scrap metal and bad memories, remember that we are the species that refuses to surrender." The first alien attack ships opened fire, their plasma cannons turning the industrial complex into an inferno of destruction. Energy beams that could melt through starship armor focused on the single human target who had humiliated their entire species. But Reynolds wasn't there anymore. The real trap had never been the weapons or the explosives. It had been the industrial complex itself, rebuilt and reinforced with materials from his ship's cargo bay. As the aliens poured their firepower into the facility, they were unknowingly feeding power into a massive electromagnetic pulse generator hidden in the complex's foundation. When Reynolds triggered the device, the pulse rippled outward at the speed of light, washing over the Kethvar fleet like an invisible tsunami. Every electronic system, every weapon, every life support unit on every alien vessel died simultaneously. Thousands of tons of advanced alien technology fell from the sky like metal rain, their crews already suffocating in the vacuum of their powerless ships. Reynolds emerged from his shielded bunker 3 kilometers away and activated his final transmission. "This is Captain Jake Reynolds to all human survivors. The Kethvar fleet is destroyed. Their invasion is over. Any aliens who survived the crash are now stranded on our world with no weapons, no technology, and no hope of rescue. He paused, looking up at the debris field that had once been humanity's greatest threat. To any other species listening to this transmission, remember what happened here. Humanity does not surrender. We do not submit. And we do not forgive those who threaten our children. Across the ruined city, humans began emerging from their hiding places. Dr. Walsh and his group climbed out of the subway tunnels to find a changed world. The hunter had become the hunted, and humanity had won. Sarah Chen stood in the street where 3 days ago she had thought her species was doomed. Now she watched alien debris burning across the sky and felt something she thought she had lost forever: hope for the future. The Kethvar had come to Earth believing they were hunting sheep. Instead, they had awakened the wolves, a focus he had once used to track smugglers through asteroid fields. The Kethvar had impressive ships and weapons, but they moved in predictable patterns. More importantly, they had made the classic mistake of believing their own propaganda. They thought they were hunting humans. They had no idea they were about to become the hunted. Reynolds checked his weapons systems one final time and began his descent toward the planet's surface. The real war was about to begin.